Hi everyone, this is a tutorial for the one and I'm going to show you how to work the Latvian braids. I'm going to start with my contrast colour 1, which is this dark purple, and I'm going to work the I cord with that. The Latvian braid is worked over 3 rows. This is the first of them, which is a setup row. So I work my I cord in pattern. And then you need to prepare to work with your contrast colour 1 and your contrast colour 2, or your choice of contrast colour that you want to work with. So work the first 3 cords of the first 3 stitches of the I cord, and now I'm going to work in almost like stranded colour work, where I knit one with one colour and then knit one with the other colour. And I tend to hold one colour in each hand, as I would do for stranded colour work. I just find that's the easiest way of doing it. So knit one with your contrast colour 1 and then knit one with your contrast colour 2. Carry on with that until you reach the last 3 stitches of this row. The last 3 stitches you work with contrast colour 1 and it's the I cord. Okay. So again, you're going to start by working the I cord into the first 3 stitches with your contrast colour 1 again. When you start knitting this row, you need to make sure that both of your colours are in position to be moved to the back of your work after you've worked the I cord. So make sure that as well as having your contrast colour 1 in position in front of your right needle, you also have contrast colour 2 as well, because you're going to need it in a minute. So because I'm working on the wrong side now, I slip the first stitch of the I cord, knit the second, yarn in front again and slip the third. Thank you, Milo, super helpful. Okay, so I'm then going to move both my yarns to the back of my work, and this is where you start working the Latvian braid. Whatever colour stitch you've got here, you work the same colour on this row. So I'm going to be starting with my contrast colour 2 here, and all I'm going to do is knit through that stitch. Now the important bit here is what you do next to create the braid. So I've just knit with this strand, and next I want to knit with my CC1 strand. So I'm going to twist them round clockwise. Some people like to talk about moving the strand you've just worked with over the top of the strand that you're about to work with. That's fine as well. For me and my brain, saying turning it clockwise makes the most sense. So turning it clockwise, and then with my little finger I just grab the yarn I've just worked with, just to hold it out of the way so that it's not trying to tangle itself up. I knit one with my contrast colour 1 yarn, and then I just repeat that. So again, twist clockwise, or if you prefer to think of it as the yarn you've just worked with comes over the top of the yarn you want to work with next. The important thing is that you're twisting them in the same direction every time. So each time the one you've just worked with comes over the top, or you think of them as twisting around each other clockwise. So you continue to work in the same pattern all the way along this row until you reach your I cord edge. What you will find as you're working is that the yarns will slowly get more and more twisted together like this. So what I do recommend is that you put your balls of yarn quite far away from you if you can, you know, a couple of meters away, because the longer the pieces of yarn are that you're working with are, the more space there is for those tangles to kind of spread out and not cause too many problems. Okay, I'm reaching the end of my wrong side row. Got a couple more stitches to work, and then the I cord to work with contrast color 1. Okay, one more. And you will see that now my threads are really tangled together, but just leave them like that, because when you work row 3 you will actually untangle all of this, which is pretty satisfying. Okay, so when you reach the last 3/4 of the row, both your colours need to come back to the front of your work, and then you work with contrast colour 1 on your I-cord edge, which is slip 1, yarn to the back, knit 1, yarn in front, and then slip 1 again. Okay, then you turn again and you're ready to work the last row of the Latvian braid, which is a right side row. Okay, we're ready to start the 3rd row of the Latvian braid. This is a right side row, and it's the last row that creates the braid pattern. The start of this row is awkward because you have these tangled yarns that you're having to work with, and it's not easy. The good news is that every stitch you work in this row, you are slowly untangling these yarns, so it does get easier as you go along. It's just that the first few stitches feel a bit awkward. So you're going to work the I-cord edge with your contrast colour 1 as before, and then you're ready to do the braid. So both yarns come to the front of your work, and as in the previous row, whatever colour stitch you're working into, use the same colour to work that stitch. And as the previous row, each time you work the yarns, you're twisting them clockwise. So with CC1, I'm going to purl into the first stitch, and then I'm going to rotate my yarns clockwise again, or if you prefer, think of the strand you've just worked with coming over the one that you need to work with next. So contrast colour 2 is worked, and then again rotate, and you carry on like this all the way to the last 3 stitches of this row. When you reach those, you're working the I-cord edge again with your contrast colour 1. Okay, I'm reaching the end of the 3rd row of the Latvian braid. I've got a couple more twists and stitches to work before I reach my I-cord edge. Okay, so when you get to the last 3 stitches of the row, both colours are moved round to the wrong side of your work, and you finish off by working the I-cord as you have done before. Knit 1, slip 1 with the yarn in front, and knit 1 more. And each time in this pattern, when you reach the end of the Latvian braid, you then pull your needles along your work and start from another right side row. So you go back to the start of that right side row to work another right side row. Okay, and that is the Latvian braid. You can see that's what it looks like on the front, and on the back you should just have stockinette stitches in columns of each colour.